Hi everybody, today we are going to discuss about glycolysis. As we know that glycolysis is one of the most important metabolic pathway in the cellular respiration. This pathway is used for the ATP production, which act as the energy currency of the cell or provide energy to our body. Okay. During this process, 6-carbon glucose molecule is split into 3-carbon pyruvate molecules through two distinct phases. That is, one phase is known as preparatory phase and another one is called payoff phase. And during the preparatory phase, the pathway requires energy input, while the payoff phase, the glucose get converted into pyruvate, energy generating ATP and NADH for the cell to utilize. Here, from the overall reaction for glycolysis, we can see that 6-carbon molecule, that is glucose molecule, plus 2 NAD plus 2 ADP plus 2 inorganic phosphates yields 2 pyruvate molecules which each contain 3 carbon plus 2 NADH plus 2H plus 2 net ATP. Okay. Additionally, this pathway is also links with the Krebs cycle, where the generated pyruvate molecule is processed for the additional ATP production, which is required for the cell's energy needs. Next, we focus on pathway. Okay. Glycolysis will occur if the oxygen is present or not. In aerobic condition, this glycolysis acts as the first step of cellular respiration. Without oxygen, glycolysis enables cells to generate only small amount of ATP, which this small amount of ATP production will take place through fermentation, a process called fermentation. Here we can see a diagram. Here, let's start from the beginning. Glucose. Here the glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate in the presence of enzyme called glucokinase or hexokinase, and here the ATP get converted into ADP by the transferring a molecule of the phosphate into glucose and converting into ADP. Okay. From this generated glucose 6-phosphate get converted into fructose 6-phosphate in the presence of phosphoglucose isomerase. That is, here the main here this reaction involves the isomerization, that is, change in the structure or arrangement of the molecules in a different manner and converted into fructose 6. This generated fructose 6-phosphate get converted into fructose 1,6 bisphosphate in the presence of phosphofructokinase. Here also the ATP get converted into ADP by transferring a molecule of phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate and leads to the production of fructose 1,6 biphosphate, that bisphosphate. Next, this generated fructose 1,6 bisphosphate get converted or split into dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate in the presence of aldolase enzyme, and these two molecules, that is dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, can be interconverted in the presence of triose phosphate isomerase, and here glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate get converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate in the presence of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. That is, from this step we can understand that there is an elimination of hydrogen molecules while converting into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, and NAD plus PI get converted into NADH plus H plus. Okay, and Next, 1,3-bis-phosphoglycerate get converted into 3-phosphoglycerate. That means one phosphate molecule get eliminated or get removed from the 1,3-bis-phosphoglycerate and added to ADP molecule and converted into ATP in the presence of phosphoglycerate kinase. And 3-phosphoglycerate, which is generated in the above step, get converted into 2-phosphoglycerate in the presence of phosphoglycerate mutate. That is, there is a slight change or in the positioning of the phosphate molecule in this compound. And from 2-phosphoglycerate is converted into phosphoenol pyruvate in the presence of enolase enzyme. And this phosphoenol pyruvate molecule get converted into pyruvate in the presence of pyruvate kinase. During this conversion, ADP get converted into ATP by transferring a phosphate molecules from the phosphoenol pyruvate into ADP, which leads to the production of ATP molecule. Okay, as well as, and finally we get the byproduct, that is 2 molecules of pyruvate. Here we can see some of its importance, that is glycolysis importance. It is an important process present in nearly all living organisms. It acts as a primary energy source for almost all cells. Okay, as we already discussed the generation of 2 pyruvate molecules, 2 ATP molecules and 2 NADH molecules are its byproducts. Okay, and this pathway occurs in both prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes, and its function takes place in both aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration.